This is Jerry from USCamera, and tonight I am going to work on a Vivitar PK mount, a wide-angle 28-28. As you can see, this is the lens I'm doing. Now, I haven't worked on one of these lenses probably in 15 years. I'm a tech, but I can take it apart. So what is wrong with the lens is the aperture is really, really hard to turn. Usually this can be anything from congealed lube, but I'm almost willing to bet that somebody spilled something sticky on it. It kind of feels like that to me. I've got the normal tools that I use a lot. I have a cross-point JCIS screwdriver with a T. It gives me a lot of torque. I've got a flat point screwdriver and a pair of tweezers, straight and curved. Both of these are Dumont. I have some Rohr lens cleaner. That's the best in the world. I'm using acetone and naphtha as solvents. And I also have chem wipes at my disposal, as well as Q-tips and toothpicks. That's probably all that I'm going to need. And so I'm not going to talk much during this video. I'm just going to take it apart. But I can remember doing this lens before, so the very first thing we're going to do is we're going to take the focus ring off so that I can get down to the aperture ring. And on this particular lens, we need to probably remove the focus ring. We're going to probably have to remove the deco ring. Might have to take off the lens ring here too. I have rubber tools for that. I'll show you those if we need them. And anyway, so I might as well get to this. These are the screws that hold the focus ring in. So the first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to turn the ring to infinity so that I know where I took it off. It's always critical that you know what your starting point is on something you're fixing. And as soon as I get this ring off of here, I am going to mark it so that I know where it is. Of course, we'll use a collimator, which is a tool, an instrument that we use to adjust the focus of lenses when you put them back together. With a collimator, you put a front surface mirror and a camera body that's a known test camera body that you know exactly that it's accurate. If you don't have that, there's several jigs that we have that you just mount the lens in a jig, and then you can put the lens on the jig on the collimator with the front surface mirror at the back of the jig, and you can see exactly how it fits, how the focus is at the film plane. Please know I have a camera at my head, so it's kind of hard for me to see this. But there are the three screws. Now we're going to pull the focus ring right off. What I want to do is I want to find the infinity stops here, and there's a piece in the lens right here. You can see that piece of metal. That's the stop for the lens, so as it turns, it hits the stop here, the other end of the stop here. But we're just going to mark it. I'm going to use this stop right here as the mark, and I'm just going to scribe a line on it. I'm going to get a carbide scribe tool to do that because I can hold it better. That's what a carbide scribe looks like. Get right on this thing. I want to mark perfectly in line with that mark here. Okay, I put a little V, and that tells me that the V should be on the line. Now, I may not even have to move that at all, but you can see the V if you look real carefully. I'll try to get up here and show you. Let me bring the lens up on the camera just to give you some magnification to take a look. Can you see the V right here? It's right there. Okay. I'm going to bring the camera back down. I need a smaller screwdriver for the lens index ring. So I'm going to reach over here and grab this. Now, most of the time, these can be held in with adhesive. Pliobond is very common. The Japanese use Pliobond. So we're going to put some Pliobond in the screw threads. You will always want to loosen set screws you want to kind of soften up the adhesive that bonds the screw in place. Since there's no head on set screws, you have to use a bonding agent and keep it there. And acetone is what I'm using to soften this. And I'm using the capillary action of my screwdriver, of my tools, the tweezers. I can show you that. Some people don't understand that, so I'll just show you. We take the tweezers and we put the points in the liquid, the solvent, and you can see the solvent is right there in between the points. That way we can apply just a tiny bit right where we want to. Just like that. I'm going to move it out of my way. I use capillary action and tweezers all the time to apply solvents in different places. Okay, this should be pretty good. We've definitely got some solvent in there. It sucks it right into the threads. But this stuff evaporates so quickly. So we're going to go to one that we put quite a solvent on already. And you just want to loosen these about a turn, because you don't really have to do it any farther than that. I'm just going to take a quick movement here and get on a hood so that I can see better. I usually bring equipment up to me really close, but I can't because the camera is in the way. So got that one loose, and we're going to come over here. There's some redness to the screw, or reddish brown. That's rust. Okay, now we should be able to pull this deco ring right forward. I'm going to grab these with my fingernail and just pull them up. Now, also too, before we move this completely, as you can see, the infinity line lines up right about here on this ring. Okay, and so you might want to put a little mark there just to know where infinity is. But if you remember the stop here on the focusing ring, that brass piece will hit that, and it's usually probably half the thickness, half the width of that will be where the stop is going to be. But in any event, we know where our infinity mark is, and so we're just going to pull this ring forward so that we can get that, see how that aperture ring comes off. Okay, just like this. Now there's a detent ball in here, and it just dropped on. I heard it hit right here. See that? Okay, that fits right here. That gives you your click stops. And there's a spring for that right there. Now, you want to be really careful that you don't lose these. There are very particular sizes. And what I've done for years is I'm going to pull the spring out, and I'm going to put a little bit of nigel grease on it. Then I'm going to put it right back in there. Now that will keep that spring there unless I get really careless. I'm going to do the same thing with the ball. I'm going to put a tiny amount of grease on the ball. I'm going to stick it right there. That way it will stay where I put it until I get to reassemble it. So we've got the aperture ring off, and it doesn't look like anything's bad. These screws here hold the lens barrel assembly to the lens body, which is the rear mount. But it really looks like, and I feel some sticky goo there. It's tacky. Of course, the aperture ring itself isn't the smoothest thing in the world. It should almost be velvety smooth, but it's okay. It doesn't have anything sticky. It's not acting glitchy, which would tell me that it's in need of some major service. So we're going to get a Q-tip. I'm going to moisten the Q-tip with a little water, and then I'm going to wipe around the inside of this ring and get everything off that's on there. Pretty gooey. We're going to do the same thing with this backside of the ring. What I'm doing is the inside part of the ring where it touches the lens barrel. See how dirty that is? That is filthy. I'm going to get a Chem wipe. Now that I got off some, if it has any sticky sugary stuff on it, the water took that off. So now I'm going to take my Chem wipe. I put some naphtha on it, and I'm going to rub this around the ring. If you notice, I'm squeezing this to clean both sides of the ring at the same time. There's your detents for the lens that as you set like f5.6, it'll drop in one of those detents, and if it's got half stops, that's f5.6, and that'd be f8, or between f8 and that'd be f8, 5.6. What is that? 6.3, and then f8, and on up to. I was going the wrong direction, but you get it. So I'm cleaning this off the best I can. I'm trying to show this to you, but I'm moving out of the way of the lens. So it's pretty filthy. Back to some more water. I just have a little cap full of water over here, but it's getting pretty clean. Okay, so the final thing I'm going to do is get one more Q-tip. I'm going to go back to my naphtha. I'm going to put some on the Q-tip, and then I'm going to do one more wipe around this thing right here on the inside really well with some clean naphtha and a clean Q-tip. I'm going to blow this off with air to make sure that I get everything off of it. But it's so cleaning it so much, it's squeaky clean is what you'd think, huh? Okay, then we're going to come over here to the barrel, and this is where most of the goo will be. And it just feels funky. The barrel's not loose, so these screws should all be tight. You just want to make sure they are. And you can take the whole back tube off. We may have to take it off. It may be in the aperture ring itself. And so we'll have to remove the barrel assembly to get to that. But the aperture ring, the aperture worked pretty well. If you bring this thing up to f22 like that, you can see the aperture blades, and you can operate them. And they're pretty clean. They're pretty quick on stopping down. So I'm going to move this back up over here. Put the aperture ring over there. I'm going to do the same thing. Water on the Q-tip, and we're going to come around here and kind of clean this off. Anything that would be on here is going to make it sticky. It makes it hang up. When the lubricant's congealed, it just turns to glue. And this lens is probably late 70s, I'd tell you. $40-year-old Vivitar lens. One of the best companies to buy parts from and to deal with any type of service that you needed. And the entire time I was working on film cameras, they were really great. They sold tools for us. We could buy specialty tools to work on lenses from them. They would help you any way they could. So we did a lot of Vivitar. Some people may shun at Vivitar, but not everybody can afford a $400 wide-angle lens, and so Vivitar was right there with some high-quality optics that were multi-coated. Okay. There is quite a bit of junk here, more so than I thought. Didn't really seem like much sugar-based liquid. Okay, the Chem Wipe's pretty dirty. Chem Wipes are a really good disposable wipe for camera equipment, and they're flintless, and they're inexpensive. We sell them on the website. I'm just kind of doing the last cleanup on this to make sure that it's pretty clean. I really don't ever like reassembling something that I thought, well, did I really clean it well enough? Okay. Now, I'm going to take some lubricant, which is dry moly. Dry moly will plate that metal. And I'm going to put a little dry moly on a clean Q-tip. And I'm going to see if it sticks to the finish on this housing on the outside of that, and it will. This will fill any of the pores in that are open on the lens barrel, and it will make this thing as slick as it could possibly be, like it was brand new metal. Moly Lube is really a great dry lubricant for anything that you need to make sure that it's really, really slick. We're going to put a little grease here first, but I just want to make sure that if there was anything on there, on the aluminum, that wasn't very clean, or not clean, but wasn't very smooth, I'm going to try to get it as smooth as I can get it, like it was new. And then I'm just going to wipe off the excess moly. It's molybdenum disulfide. Okay, that should be good. I'm also going to put a little bit on the inside of this ring, just the leftovers that are on this chem wipe, as I rub this ring, just like that, like a hula hoop in a way. You can just roll it along and it'll just rub it right into the lens ring. That ring was still kind of funky, see? Okay, now we should be able to put this, just put it on, and which way are the aperture? There you go. So we're going to drop this right into the slot here. There's a slot on the lens ring. We're going to put that in here and see how smooth this operates now. And if it doesn't really get smooth, it's because the ring could be at around. Somebody could have dropped it, but look at that. Real smooth. Compared to what it is really nice. I don't feel any bind there, so it wasn't impacted. It was just completely gooey and gunked up from the grease. Okay, so that works. I'm going to take my finger and put it in my Moly Lube, or not Moly, this is Nigel lubricant. See how much I have on my finger, and that's too much. What I'm going to do is lightly wipe this around, just like that. Really, in camera lubricants, almost if you can see it, you're putting too much. Okay, I just put it around the ring. See how much is still on my finger? I'm going to wipe off the rest of that. And then I'm going to take my clean, or somewhat clean finger. I'm going to wipe that around just to give it a really, really thin film, and whatever else is coming off of my finger, I'm going to wipe that off there. And you really can't see it. We lubed that pretty well for a camera lens. You don't want to get a lot of lubricant in lenses, because when they get warm and hot in the summertime, especially when customers leave them in their cars, it can flow right into different places that it's not supposed to be, as in aperture blades. It's very common. So we're going to go and put this right back on. Here's the slot. Can you see the slot right there? Okay, and we're going to just guide that slot right up over the aperture control ring, just like that, and now it really is smooth. Okay, so the next thing we're going to do is put on the ring that holds the aperture ring in place, that has the depth of field scale on there, and you can see the detent ball. I don't know if you can see that. Let me stand up. There you go. You can see the detent ball sitting on my grease chunk, and I'm going to make sure that it's getting ready to go over the hole. And so remember that we're going to make sure that we place it so that it is at the detent in the aperture ring. So we're going to turn that over, and you want to keep an eye on it, because sometimes they can fall off. We're going to make sure the ring is completely seated down at the bottom. Before I do that, I'm going to do that. I kind of let it slip when I was talking to you. Okay. So I'm going to bring it up here like this. I'm holding the ring down. Then I'm going to just slide this back over like it was. See, there's the ball. So if we just slide this in very carefully, that ball will stay exactly right there. Okay. And you want to make sure you keep the ring even as you're pushing it down, or it won't go right. It's not very even for me because I'm talking and trying to show you all. I'm going to take my tool and just pry this ring back just a tiny bit. I'm really not using any force. Camera equipment doesn't need any force. There we go. So What I'm going to do is hold these two rings together with my hand, and I'm going to turn this. Okay, now see, it's just going past the infinity mark. That means the ring is not in the right position. And so what I'm going to do is turn the ring this direction, ever so slightly, using the set screws to pull it over. What we want to do is get 2/8 to be at this end of the stop. That's what I'm doing just right now. Remember, we got a mark on the lens barrel, but I just want to get it close. So that's 2/8. So it should go 2/8 F4, 3/5, 5/6, 6/3, and 8. See, it's lining up. So we're good. I'm going to do a quick check on my mark, and it's good. It is on my mark. And so I'm going to come back over here now, and I'm going to tighten the set screw up right here just to start it, to keep it in place just while I check it out some more. Remember, we turned it about a half a turn, and so you want to turn this just till you feel the barrel. You don't need to tighten it up really tight. If you tighten it up really tight, it expands and then it touches the aperture ring. And it touches it with so much force that it really makes it hard to turn, just like it did before we took it apart. Okay, I'm just going to turn that till I can feel it, just like that. Because we're going to bond these down. I'm going to use flat black lacquer, but we'll bond them down. And I'm going to take a look at rust job here, because it's that's pretty brown. Yeah, that was kind of rusted. Just a little bit. It's not bad. I'm going to clean off that rust with a Q-tip. See? Now it's clean. There's the rust. It's pretty common on that, because screws like that are steel. They're not plated. That's tight. That's tight. And that's tight. So this should turn pretty smooth now, see? Really easy. Is it working? Aperture stops open, closes down. So it's working fine. So the only other thing that we have to do is to reassemble this is to find the infinity mark that we put on the lens, and then we'll put the focus ring back down. We're going to clean this too before we put it down. I can feel some sticky goo there. So same thing, a little water. I'm going to wipe this down on the inside. With lenses, if you don't make sure that you get everything clean when you reassemble, a little tiny piece of grit could drop in the helicoid, which then you'll feel it. It feels like sand as you turn the lens when you're focusing. Really, the only trick that is to working on this particular lens is knowing that ring right here that's on the focusing ring unscrews. Because you'll take the thing apart and try to figure out how to get it off, how to get it apart, and it's just that ring hit everything. Now, not every lens is like this, but okay. Now a new chem wipe, a clean one. And then I'm going to use a little naphtha on the inside here to remove any grease or goo that's left there. It's a leftover lubricant. We cleaned anything that was sugar-based off with water. You notice I'm not flooding anything with any chemistry. You really don't have to do that. Camera equipment doesn't need a lot of cleaners of any kind when you're doing it, unless you're flush cleaning a shutter. Anyway, that's pretty clean. You can feel it. I can feel it's real clean. So now we're going to go to the lens. We're going to find my infinity stop where the helical lined up. And so let me take a real quick look at this to get it lined up for myself. Okay, I am happy with that. And so we're going to put the focusing ring back down, and you can see what I mean. It's not turning the helical at all. Okay. Okay. So the infinity line's lined up. The infinity mark is lined up in the infinity line on the lens. And then I've made sure my mark lined up. So now we're going to put in the screws that hold the focusing ring to the helicoid. I'm going to put those in just like they were. And I'm going to try to do this with a camera in my head. It's just harder than the dickens to see everything because I can't lean over the lens because I'm trying to make sure that you can see me putting those in. And just to tell you, my screwdrivers are magnetized. I magnetize my cross points and slotted drivers so that I can hold the screw head pretty much where I want to put it. And then I can feel the threads with the screwdriver as I start to tighten it up. And I might need a little bit smaller screwdriver blade. I do. Let me see, I didn't take one out of my tool selection. I may take this long one that I have over here. Bear with me just a second while I find a tool that I need. That might work. It's just a little smaller than I like. I at least can get these started with this tool. That's not going to work very well. If I can just get it up and towards the hole, I can start it. Yeah, that's close. I just don't have enough blade width to really get a good lineup on that screw. It kind of wanders a bit. Let me go back to blue, old blue. I could do this in 1 second if I had no camera in my face. It's right on the hole, but the driver is just too big. I'm going to go find something better. There you go. This should work. This one's not magnetized. Let me magnetize this real quick. There we go. This should be quite a bit better. It'll fit the slot very well. Really, it's that camera in my head. I just lean over it and look, you know. I'm going to have to pull this out of the camera's view so I can put this back. Because it's really being a pain. Okay, there's one. There's another one. Now, I don't know, you may not have noticed, but I did not move the helicoid at all while I was putting this ring on. I already had it in place, and I didn't want to move it because I'd already lined it up with my mark. You know, even though I'm going to put a collimator on the lens, the closer you have it, it's just more, it's nicer. If you make, like, if you don't have a collimator, you can at least set the lens up close, and then you can use your camera body to make sure the lens focuses to infinity properly. Back to the same thing of not being able to get this on because the camera's in my head. It's just in my way. If I get enough videos going, we will be able to get a camera that I can set up farther away from me that maybe I can control remotely. I'm going to move this out if I don't get it in this time because I can do it so much easier if it's right in my face. You have to be able to see that hole perfectly. There we go. So we're going to come back around here and just make sure it's on the infinity stop. See? We're lining it up with the infinity line and the infinity mark. So we're going to tighten these up. Get my bigger screwdriver that fits the threads perfectly since it's now able to tighten it up. Okay. I see the lens turn smoothly, and the aperture ring moves back and forth just like it should. And we're done. So the next thing we're going to do is put on the deco ring over the focusing rubber. And you just